So what is the purpose of a holdback? What's up, YouTube? So obviously you're reading the title, you've seen the intro to the video. We're going to be talking holdbacks today. So the purpose of a holdback, in my opinion, there's two reasons to have a holdback. And if you don't know what a holdback is, it's just an animal that you have produced that you hold back from and keep in your collection for future breeding purposes. So that's why we call it a holdback. So the potential of a holdback is solely based off what you expect to do with that holdback. So if I am holding back a male, I want that male to be jam-packed with genetics. That way that I can pair it to a female that's also jam-packed with genetics, and I can produce something that's awesome. Now, obviously, the thing with holdbacks is that most people think that holdbacks are replacing the parents, and that's not necessarily something that I do. So I've seen people keep a holdback, and then they get rid of the dad or they get rid of the mom, and then they grow it up, and then they breed it to, let's say, a sibling or something like that, and that's line breeding. And I'm not going to get into that because I personally don't do any line breeding, but some people do, and that's why some people keep holdbacks as well, or they breed it back to the parents. So that's another reason people keep holdbacks. Now, for me, and my reasons for keeping holdback is, so let's say, for example, I have a bearded dragon that is hypo-het trans. Now, my holdback, in order to enhance that dragon, in order to enhance the offspring, isn't just going to be another hypo-het trans, because really all I'm making is hypos, and about a quarter of them will be translucent. So there's nothing special about that breeding. Now, if I have a hypo-het trans, I would want my holdback to be a leatherback, a dunner, or even if you're into breeding trans to het trans, even translucent. That way I could produce offspring that are going to be all over the place, and it's going to be a variety out of that one clutch. Same thing goes with snakes. With snakes, because they only lay one clutch, you want to make sure that the pairing that you're doing is going to be something that's good, something that's actually going to blow people's minds. You don't want something that everyone else is making. Obviously, there's going to be other people making probably what you're making, but you don't want something that's so typical that you're not going to stand out from anyone else because you're making the same thing someone else is making. So, for example, obviously there's a lot of dreamsicles out there, and dreamsicles still sell really well, but there's this thing about people saying they don't like pastel, and I love pastel. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add pastel to everything that I got. So a lot of my stuff has pastel in it. A lot of my stuff has pied in it. So if I were to keep holdbacks, a lot of my holdbacks are going to have pied, or be visual pied, or het pied, or something like that, where I can use it for the future. Now, the thing about holdbacks, as I already mentioned, most people get holdbacks to replace the parents. If you are keeping a holdback to replace the parent, what I've noticed people doing is they get rid of the parent as soon as they have that holdback. And I think that's 100% wrong, mainly because every animal that you own has to get to a certain age and a certain weight before you can breed it. And they actually have to be mature themselves, sexually mature. And most people don't understand that if you keep a holdback and you sell the parent, you're not just waiting till the next season to get that holdback to breed. Sometimes you're waiting 2 years. Sometimes you're waiting 3 years. So for those 2 or 3 years, if you got rid of the parents, then you have wasted that project away for 3 years for no reason. So what I do when I keep holdbacks is I also keep the parents, mainly because while that holdback is growing up, I am making sure that I am still producing stuff that I want to produce. And obviously, if I produce that holdback and I wanted to keep it for my own collection, then obviously that pairing produced something that I wanted to produce. So I'm going to keep doing it, and potentially I could even get stuff that I want to hold back from the next clutch and the clutch after that, until that one holdback from the first clutch that I had is grown up. Then I can get rid of the parent, and if I am doing the line breeding stuff, then I have something to pair the other parent to, which most people don't like that. Most people think that's weird. I don't personally do that, but that's just how some people use their holdbacks. For me, every season I have at least 2 or 3 pairings that are unrelated to each other that I want to keep holdbacks from. That way I can pair the holdbacks together in the future. So with my bearded dragons, I have 2 lines of yellow males that I have, and I obviously have several yellow females that I have. So I try to use those 2 males to breed to the females. That way, whenever the offspring hatch, I can keep yellow babies from each side, and potentially make great pairs for the future. So obviously it's all based on the odds. So if I don't get what I want to get to hold back, then I'm not going to hold anything back. And that puts me into the next thing that I want to talk about, holdbacks. I've seen a lot of people, when they start breeding, they keep everything that they possibly can. And they're like, oh, this is neat, or oh, this is cool, or oh, I could use this. And then you run out of room because you have literally collected all of your offspring. And the problem with that is, not only have you ran out of room, but everything that you have going forward is going to be related in some way or some form. And eventually, you're going to have to outsource animals for your collection. So if you're already going to have to outsource animals for your collection, why not do that? Yes, keep a few holdbacks. Let's say, for example, I have a clutch I actually have a clutch that I'm about to cut tomorrow or the day after, and then I'll post a video a few days after that, depending on how the timeline falls. And out of that clutch, I don't expect to keep any holdbacks. So the only thing I want to keep out of that clutch is a male or a female. It doesn't really matter to me at that point. But this pairing is 3 genes to 3 genes. So if I can get something that potentially has 5 or 6 genes that I can use to progress my double recessive projects in the future, then I will keep that as a holdback. So that's the only thing that I would look for in that clutch. But then I also have another pairing that's going to produce pied stuff that are going to be super bananas and stuff like that. So another thing about me, not only do I like pastel, I like banana. So those are my 3 favorite. I know it's so simple, so typical. Oh, it's banana. Oh, it's pastel. Oh, it's pie. Those are my 3 favorite things. Is I love banana, I love pastel, and I love pie. And that's just something that I like. There's obviously a lot of other morphs out there with snakes. So that's just how it goes for me. But yes, I have another pairing that's going to be banana, het pied to 4 gene banana pied male. Even if I don't get a 4 gene super banana or something like that, I still have a lot of stuff that I can keep from that pairing that I can use to actually pair it to if I get a 5 or 6 more snake from the other pair, and then make even more morphs with het pied or something like that in it. Or maybe I also have clown pied stuff that if I have a double recessive clown pied male or a double recessive clown pied female, I can pair it to one of the babies from that clutch and make double recessives that are all over the place. 1 through 6 different morphs in that clutch. That could be potentially something I want to do in 2 or 3 years whenever they come of age. So that's what I think about holdbacks. So so most people, when I talk to them, like people that have asked me questions or that want me to mentor them or anything like that, most people, they ask me, what do you do? Like, how do you think so far ahead? And it's crazy because if you don't have breeding plans for the next year or the 2 seasons from now, you're not doing something right. And the reason I say that is because if you don't know what you're going to do next year, or you don't know what you're going to do 2 years from now or 3 years from now or 5 years from now or whatever it is, you don't know what holdbacks you want to keep. Because that's what gets people into, oh, this is cool, this is nice, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then they keep everything because they don't know what they want to do next year. They don't know what they want to do 2 years or 5 years down the road. That's when a lot of problems arise for people that are just now getting into it. Is they're spending a lot of money, and they're also keeping back a lot of stuff that doesn't really make sense for their collection. So for all of my animals that I already have a list of holdbacks that I want to get out of my clutches. Obviously, if I don't hit the odds, then that's fine. I'll do it again next year, and I'll have that same list of holdbacks. Obviously, you don't want a bunch of animals that are exactly the same morphs, the same genes, and all of that. You want things that are going to complement each other. So obviously, if you have a bunch of the same stuff, let's say all of my snakes were pastel banana. Yeah, I can make super pastel bananas. I can make super banana pastels. I can make double supers, whatever. But that doesn't really do me any good because then everything that I produce is going to be exactly the same. So that's why you got to mix it up. That's why I have xanthic stuff. That's why I have clown stuff, pied stuff, hypo stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that complements those morphs, those genes, and I want to be able to add that to the collection and be able to complement those morphs with the recessive genes and all of that goes into play. So even like my pied stuff, I love banana pieds, but I also like it when there's dark genes in the banana. So I plan on pairing my banana pieds and my regular bananas to dark genes like mahogany, blackhead, cinnamon, or black pastel, and all that stuff. because I like what it does to the banana more. So that's what I mean by complement the genes. So you have to make sure you're working out those holdbacks for 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, to make stuff that actually is something not only that you want to make, but something that's cool, something that other people want you to make. So obviously, if you think about it that way, you're going to be more successful than someone that just thinks, well, I just want to produce stuff that I can sell. You don't want to just produce stuff that can sell. You want to produce stuff that is going to enhance your collection for the future, and also enhance someone else's collection. Because even though we are breeding all of these animals and we're selling them to customers, a lot of those customers are going to potentially be competitors in the future, and so you're going to be supplying your competitors with awesome animals. And there's nothing wrong with that, because guess what? When those animals become of age and they start breeding them, they're gonna say, well, yeah, this the parent came from so and so, and then that person will be like, oh, so and so is producing some nice stuff, and they're gonna check your stuff out, and then eventually you're gonna sell something from just someone else buying something that came from your line. So that it makes a difference if you produce things that actually other people want you to produce. I've always said myself that I produce what I want to produce for myself, but a lot of the stuff that I produce for myself is stuff that other people want me to produce. So it works out for me because that's just the way I like to work it. That's just the way I do it. So if I produce stuff for myself and other people like it, then it works out for everyone, really. So right now, just a few days ago, I had a second clutch of bearded dragon eggs that hatched, and I was expecting 3 holdback males out of that clutch and at least 2 holdback females out of that clutch. But out of the 13 eggs, because this female laid a small clutch, I only have 10 eggs that have hatched so far. There's 3 eggs still in the incubator, and it's only been 48 hours, so I'm still giving them a little bit more time. But out of the 10 eggs that have hatched, there's only 1 holdback. I didn't produce anything else that I wanted to keep. And most people be like, oh, well, they're jam-packed with genetics. Isn't that what you said? Yeah, that is what I said. But it also has to complement stuff that I already have. So this holdback, I'll show you a video as I'm talking about it. So this holdback, the whole purpose of me keeping him is to produce stuff later on in the future. So next year or the year after, depending on how long it takes him to get to size, which usually with bearded dragons is pretty easy to get males to size. It usually only takes less than a year, really. So next season, whenever I do pair him, I already have things that I know for a fact that I'm going to be pairing with this animal. And I'm probably, now that I know he's going to be a holdback, I'm probably going to purchase other bearded dragons that I compare to it to make even more awesome things next year. So that's just the way I breed my animals. That's just the way I decide which holdbacks I want. And so I'll just go ahead and tell you, the 3 males that I wanted to keep out of this pairing, depending on what came out, right? Because obviously I say 3 males, but if one of them didn't come out, then I'm only keeping 2 males. But out of all of the 10 eggs that I hatched, only 1 of them was part of that list of the 5 things that I wanted to keep. Because that's just how it went for me. That's just how the odds played out. So I wanted to either keep a hypotrans leatherback dunner that was het wero, a hypotrans dunner that was het wero, or a hypo leather dunner that was het wero. And the reason I wanted to keep this is because I have 2 females that are het wero, possibly 3. I'll find that out once her clutch hatches here in about 2 or 3 weeks or so. So if this female proves out het wero, then I'll have 2 of them that are normal scales and 1 of them that's a leatherback. And the thing about this male that I'm holding back is a hypotrans dunner. That's the only thing that I got out of the clutch that I really wanted, besides if he was to also have been leather. So this male that I'm holding back, I was going to use him for all 3 females if it worked out. Because obviously one of them being a leatherback, I can't breed leatherback to leatherback. So that's why the other options were there. The hypotrans leatherback dunner and the hypo leather dunner. Because if I did keep one of them, then I would just have to find at least one more thing to go with that leatherback female, and I would have something for the other 2 females. But this male works for all 3 females, so I might not purchase another animal for this trio of females here. So that hopefully that works out for me. And like I said, I still have 3 eggs to hatch out of that clutch, so maybe I get the other things that I'm looking for out of those 3 eggs. Who knows? Out of the females that I wanted to keep from this clutch, one was a hypo leatherback het wero het trans, and the other one was a hypo het wero het trans. So practically what I already have. And obviously I didn't get anything like that I did get a lot of. I got 3 hypo leatherback females, and because the male that I'm keeping is not a leatherback, I don't want to keep leatherback females because I don't want to potentially in the future accidentally breed the leatherback female to the hypotrans dunner male because they are siblings. I don't want to accidentally do that. And I know for a fact that if I have 2 leatherbacks, a male and a female, I'm not going to pair them because I don't do silkies. So I don't want to accidentally pair them because I'm like, oh, this one's a leatherback, this was a dunner, let's go. And then after the fact, I'll be like, oh crap, they're siblings. Because eventually you get a little overwhelmed with trying to figure out your breeding plan and you don't think thoroughly of what you're supposed to be doing. And it may not happen next year, but it could have happened 3 or 4 years down the road because I would have spaced out. You know, it's 4 years down the road. I can't keep. You try to keep track of all the lineage and everything like that, but you sometimes forget. So I don't want that to happen. So that's why I'm not keeping any of the leatherback females for the future. So hopefully that gave you an idea of what a holdback is supposed to do for your collection, what you're supposed to be actually keeping back for your collection. So my only advice to you, if you are producing offspring that you want to keep for your collection, is think about what you want to do 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road. Think about that and figure out what you need to keep to make sure that you fulfill those goals that you have for the future. So if I want to be able to produce hypotrans leatherback dunner weirdos, then I have to keep things that make sense for my collection. So obviously, if I have a hypo leatherback trans het weiro female and I'm keeping back a hypotrans dunner het weiro male, then I'm going to be able to produce hypotrans leatherback dunner weirdos because obviously that gives me a better chance. Everything is going to be hypo. I'm breeding het trans to translucent. I have a leatherback and I have a dunner. So that's as easy as that pairing would get. Obviously, the more things you take out of it, the less likely it's going to be that it happens. But that's just the way I'm looking at it. There's other people that are trying to produce hypertrans leatherback dunners as well that are weirdos. I was actually supposed to hit them last year, and I was sold a male with incorrect genetics, and I'll make a video about that in the future because I'm sure a lot of people have probably been sold things that weren't exactly what they were supposed to get. So as always, I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything that I put out in the future. As always, peace.